Good now. Um,
before, but we should be okay now, and everything's good. Hi.
What's up? Okay, I think we're good.
We're good. That's brilliant. Well, so feel free to introduce yourself.
All right, so my name is Deon Butler. I'm from Detroit, Michigan, Inkster, Michigan, born and raised. I'm 28 years old, and I just had a newborn. Her name is Selena, and it's the best thing in my life.
Congratulations. And
Thank you.
also, everyone, if you haven't heard of me, my name's Aquayemi-Claude. I am a campaigner from London for hidden disabilities, and this is an Instagram Live in regards to an inclusive world, education, and talking about equality. So, first question I would like to ask, and everyone else do feel free to drop in questions in the comments, is when was you first diagnosed? And
See,
you was aware that you had
that's
hidden disabilities?
that's a good question. I was first diagnosed at 28.
Um, and how did you first act about it? Would you know much about it, or?
No, see, the thing is, before the pandemic hit, my wife had told me she was having a baby, and I'm like, oh man, I have been keeping this secret for so long, and I started to kind of panic. I'm like, I was talking to
Mm,
myself, like, how can I help myself out by reading, facing my fears? So I ordered a bunch of books. I ordered a bunch of books. Are you still there? Because it kind of.
yeah, no, I'm still there. I'm still there.
Oh, okay. Just wanted
I'm
to make
still.
sure,
Can you hear
because it's
me?
kind of lagging. Yep, it's better. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to read to my baby. So I started ordering these books online, and I had noticed that I was still struggling, even though I can read. I can read, but I couldn't read out loud. So, make a long story short, I did some research, and I found this amazing organization called Noticeability, and they help kids teach
Mm,
about dyslexic. And I watched Dean, and who's the founder of Noticeability, and he was going in about how I watched a video of him, and he was going in on about how he was privileged and he still couldn't read. He was talking about how he was down and he was struggling, and everybody was trying to teach him how to read, and he was struggling. And he ended up finding out that he was
mm,
dyslexic. So he was telling the story to me, and that's when I was like, man, I didn't know nothing about dyslexic.
mm.
But I took his curricular and I went through these classes, and it ended up being the best thing ever. When I found out when I found out that I was dyslexic, I had to learn how to own up to it because I was so confused about what dyslexic was. Then I owned it, and I
Mm.
realized that that is a real thing.
Yes, yes, very much so. And would you say that was it the case that did you find that you was able to hide it, or did you find that also other people were kind of saying that you could that they could see that you probably had dyslexia as well in that point of view? And would you say that the education in America is up to standards for hidden disabilities as well, or do there needs to be more improvement?
So to answer your first question, I had learned about, I mean, once I found out I was dyslexic, I had to go through these steps and stages of learning how to speak clearer and understand what dyslexic was. And before I found out, I literally struggled from elementary, middle school, and high school, even in college. So, yes, to answer your
Yeah.
question, I learned how to hide it very well. I learned how to get a C
Mm,
plus and go to class and do what I was told to do and still hide it. So to answer your second question, it's it's rough to say because teachers don't even know about dyslexic. So with the funding and
yeah.
the education system, it's kind of it's kind of weird because I'm going around asking these teachers
Beginning
from my
stages.
past. Yes, I'm going around and I'm asking
Mm.
what dyslexic is and all these things, and I'm finding out that they don't even know what dyslexic is. And as I go through my journey, I realize this is a huge issue in America.
Wow. Interesting. Wow. Wow. So really, there needs to be qualified teachers. There needs to be that more understanding and education for dyslexia. And in the work that you do as well, what do you have you felt inspired to also make improvements for your community and for like-minded students that may only just been informed that they have dyslexia or neurodiverse?
Again, another good question. So right now, I'm going around the world to be a motivation speaker about dyslexic with noticeability. And one of the things that we realize as an organization is that it's so many people with dyslexic and don't even know it. I struggled and I had a chip on my shoulder and I played sports. So I really had to dig down to take my education serious. I had to think about what about the next kid that's not going to play sports, that just want to go and get an education? How are they going to succeed in the education system? And I'm speaking for the Black community, a lot of the kids feel like they're not a part of the community. I mean, they don't feel a part of being smart the way they label normal people. So they quickly turn to either streets or don't graduate. So I realized how do noticeability, what do our company do to help kids around the world embrace who they are, and also help
Mm.
teachers learn like, hey, look, this kid is not a bad kid because they're acting out. They're acting out because your class is boring or you're not able to teach them the right way. So with that being
Yeah.
said, it's kind of a two-way street. It's kind of a double-edged sword. A student need to go up to a teacher and say, "Hey, I don't understand what you're saying, and I'm struggling with reading." But also on the other end, the teacher need to notice what they're good at, so they can face some of
Mm.
their fears, because it's hard being able to stand up and say, "I can't read, I can't do math well,
Yeah.
I can't write well." So, and it's
Yeah.
easier for a teacher to be like, "Oh, that kid is bad because he's acting out. Send him home." I was getting kicked out so much when I was a kid in high school. I was getting kicked out of school in
Mm.
elementary because they was labeling me as a bad kid. I wasn't a bad kid. I just
Mm.
couldn't understand what was going on.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's what I'm very concerned about. And I think that it is that understanding, that education. And I think what's so important is that for us as neurodiverse, I don't know if you feel the same, but I'm a very much perfectionist when it comes to my task, when it comes to me doing anything. I feel that I have to achieve the best and, of course, make sure that I'm kind of not leaving anything out. And I've always felt that. And I would say that it is that factor that there is in the UK, for example, as I would share with you, is that there's a big exclusion rate. So the amount of students that, of course, are excluded is horrendous in the fact because it's just that understanding, and for teachers to, of course, know the best way to teach that student. And some students may find it difficult because they don't really understand what the teacher is saying, and they need it broken down, or they need it kind of, they need a bit of time out because it's all too much. So it's very interesting to hear that that's the same situation as well, roughly. But it's really good to hear that you are doing what you're doing. And would you also say that within your experience as well, as being an NFL, would you say that there is a representation of neurodiverse other than yourself, and also equality?
Again, you come in with some great questions, because even in football, I struggle with the playbook. I
Mm.
struggled throughout the playbook, so I didn't really get good in football until I had to learn how to learn the playbook, and the confidence. I couldn't play to my best ability when I was playing football. It matched with my confidence. So I'm sure that there's other black kids out in the world that's playing football that can't really read the playbook, but is not 100% being able to go out there and perform well due to the fact that they can't understand the playbook. So we need to be able to teach them how to embrace their learning style. And one thing with me was my coach allowed me to be silly up there on a board. And that's the way I learned. I'm a goofy personality. And my junior year, I learned how to be goofy and learn how to read the playbook by them embracing my learning style. So eventually I got better on the football field. So to get back to your question, I think it's very important to knowledge these kids, to be able to go out and also help them embrace it at a younger age. Because once they embrace it at a younger age, they can be themselves and they can be able to perform at a high rate. I'm not saying that that football taught me everything in life, but I noticed when I embraced who I was, I started doing a lot better. And again, everything around me became better. So to get back to the dyslexic, I think it'll be best, and it bugs me to know that you're having the same problem in the UK. So, and again, my company is in, we traveling in 36 states and we all over around in 26 countries. So
wow,
I want to be able to come to London and be able to talk to you and set up this meeting so we can be a stronger population and be able to speak. Because as you say, you are dyslexic and that neurologic, it's a problem there.
Yes, it is. And this is why we had this live, to bring awareness and to inform people that, you know, you can hear our stories as both dyslexic and neurodiverse, to show that basically our voices and our missions for change and equality, and to also just have a discussion, but also to promote, to inform you all about the Claudes SEN law, because more than ever we need action. And we've had years of words and statements, but no action, and action that's not included people's stories. So, you know, it's highly needed. There is a number of neurodiverse and invisible disability, 1 in 5, as I last checked. And basically, they're not feeling like they're getting delivered. They're feeling like they're not being, you could say, forgotten about. The understanding within education that we can end exclusions within schools. We can also have a work environment that meets to the policies and also be inclusive and excluded. And yeah, I think it's very interesting to hear that it's the same issue in America. And of course, you kind of wonder what really has been done. What's the news like over there in the point of view of like their actions and protocols? Are they mentioning anything about hidden disabilities and what they're going to implement, or even in education in that point of view?
Well, that's a tough question to answer, because I can only go by what my organization is doing, and it's the best organization. I mean, it's the best product that we're doing, because it's number one, it's testing the kids with this ability to scan their eyes and go and check their reading check their reading performance. Also, being hands-on with them in case they do need us to come up and come to wherever they located at. Again, we are located. I mean, this system is all over the world. So I'm still going through it and finding out new things about how I learn and embracing the way I learn. It has been phenomenal. I mean, amazing. So I think the more awareness we bring, the more people understand what this is, I think it'll help, not only help in school, but help in the prisons. Because I'm hearing that, well, I'm knowing that it is 60% of Black African Americans that's not just Black, but that's in jail, incarcerated, that can't read. Well, think about why they are in jail, because they wasn't able to feel comfortable in school. They was pushed out. The way the school system was built is for reading, math, and English. Yes. And if you don't perform well in them 3, 9 out of 10, you're not going to college. Well, what else are they doing? And of course, you can do engineering, or you can do plumbing school, or you can do some of these high tech. But 9 out of 10 in the Black community, and what I'm speaking for, is they going and trying to make money for a living. And then the thing that when they do try to
Yeah.
make money, they get pushed in jail. Well, it kind of go all the way
Mm.
back to the school.
Yeah, it does. And I think that is the thing. The behavior which has been acted upon by people in power has been unacceptable, in the fact that I think like that kind of putting people in boxes, of course, and also kind of either signing them off because you don't really understand the needs that they need to be met within their actual specific like understanding of being dyslexic, neurodiverse. And yes, I love that you said the figures, because in America, because I was on a call yesterday and I was even wondering, it'd be really interesting to know what are the figures in prisons in the United Kingdom. But it's great to hear from American point of view what are the figures, of course, from the prison point of view, because it is. I'm aware that there's been a lot of people who've either gone down that road when they didn't really hope to go down that road because they had a lack of understanding from a teacher or from a school environment. And yeah, I think there needs to be more improvements. And I think, like, for example, the representation, it needs to be there. I'm sure the same that you probably agree in America, the representation for people with, neurodiverse, hidden disabilities, and visible disabilities, because basically, who is the next generation going to look up to, and who are they going to be able to feel empowered and to know that they are able to succeed and able to get into those jobs and high, you could say, decision making point of office, if that makes sense.
I know, and I like that you hit the point of the next generation. You're completely on point, where that's why I joined with Noticeability, because our job is to notice their
Wonderful.
ability. Like me, I was playing sports, and that kept me in school. Well, we got to notice what's keeping these other kids going, focusing on what they're good at. I'm able to read, I'm able to write and do math. But yeah, it took me a little bit longer than most people that was around me. And that's okay. Some people's minds develop differently. And they need to, and we need to understand that it's okay to have different learning styles, because we're all different from around the world. And once you notice what they're good at, then that's when they increase their confidence. They increase willing to and feel connected with the teacher, or who's ever around trying to teach them or work with them. A boss, supervisor is able to help them and do the best at their job and what they good at, and everything else will come along as you develop.
And also, I think that is such an important point, because this is the thing, is that I see that there's been stagnation within the development. I don't know if it's the same situation in America where they combined other services. Have they got like a actual, how is the profile for a student when they go through an education within your actual organization? What's your process? So if you are a person that's got dyslexia, what is the process, and how do you match up the right teacher or support person with that a young person?
So with Noticeability, you can go online, and it's an easy setup. It's easy for anybody to be, not just a student or anybody or people with dyslexia, but teachers, principals, anybody that's an educator. And what they can do is go online and check it out for themselves, the way of a certain step of how to embrace and how to overcome some of these things that they wasn't aware of. So once you go online, it's really simple to just click on it and say, oh, here goes some information that can help people that learns different, or people that want to be taught, or educators that want to be taught to teach. So the process is very simple, and again, it's around in 36 states in 26 countries, and it's online as well.
And the impact has really been beneficial for people. They felt that they've been able to flourish and do well as well with the services that you offer?
Yes, and it increased really well. It's huge. I can only speak for me and what it did for me. It brought me out of my shell.
Yeah,
It brought me to be
brilliant.
comfortable in the way I learn, and it taught me to take my time and um, um, practice a little bit, not harder, but giving myself breaks. So throughout this courses,
Mm.
it built me up to be a board member. It built me up to stand out. So I am able to give back to that next generation to help them, guide them down the right, not path, because you can take any path you want, but at least you are aware.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest thing that I struggle with, is being aware of being dyslexic and some of these learning and some of my learning tools.
And what would you be your 3 tips for a person that is neurodiverse or wants to basically change the world or wants to kind of make a change within their community?
What I would tell a young person or educator or a person that's in a neurologic that have this neurologic, I would tell them to, and it might not work for them, that everything that worked for me, but embrace it, love it, be able to speak up for yourself, and know that you're not the only one that's trying to learn or trying to teach. And the more you speak up about it, the more you realize that a lot of people else around have good things, but also have some things they can work on. And it's not just a reading. It's not just the way you hear. It's not just the way you see. It's it has to do with a lot of things. And once you realize what it is, and once you understand how to go by it, you will know where to go with it. So that's what I would tell them.
Brilliant. And also, who would be your role models or inspirations? Did you have any inspirations when you was younger?
Yeah. See, um, that's again, that plays a big role into um, of who I am today. Is I learned by watching and not just hearing. I learned by the teachers, the janitors, the principals. Even though they wasn't my biggest role models, I just paid attention to them and how they did things, and they guided me down the right track. So it helped me build my future. But I also had role model. I mean, I also had some sports inspirations. My favorite team is Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions as well. They're kind of, they they on the uprise. But I watched Dr. House. I don't know if you know that show, but he's a doctor that builds and
I've
help.
heard of the name.
Yeah, he's a genius doctor, but he does it in a different way.
Okay. And would you say that what's the fact of, because I would say that what I found as well as a neurodiverse, we're quite creative as well. We have specific talents. And would you say that those specific talents have been enhanced in America, or would you say that they've been neglected and need looking at in the fact of like the creative industry and
That's a good question. I think in America it's been neglected because
okay.
just the statistics is so low of people graduating from high school, not college, because college is a whole nother discussion. But if we're able to embrace it in elementary and see it early, we'll be able to guide that young student or teacher or anybody who's willing to learn to help them get to a certain place in their life. So I think right now it's not where it needs to be at. It's being neglected. It's being overlooked. We, think about it. The world has been having prisons for the longest. And if you think about it, people haven't really learned their lessons. Well, it's time for a change. It's
Yes.
time to look into something else like school, the education.
Yes. And would you say, like, because one of the ideas I was thinking is that they could probably put in like education classes within prisons, or they could put in more better facilities as well. And also within, I feel that qualified teachers, I think also the fact of if they invest more into adding more to the curriculum that may be more of interest to that neurodiverse person, and in the fact that they could deliver in the policies that are really being very restricted for certain people, of course, and in their development of learning and being able to be given equal opportunities. Would you say there's a fair equality in the America, and the point of like work and the point of earning?
So I wouldn't I wouldn't call it fair, because if you think about the teachers, a lot of the turnover rate is pretty fat. I mean, it's pretty high because the teachers are not getting paid well enough. And the teachers that are teaching, some of the teachers are not doing a great of a job because they're not motivated due to low funds. Also, if you hiring people in the world are realizing teachers don't get paid as much. So the next step is, who are going to accept this teaching job? A lot of average teachers, a lot of teachers can't even read, and they got teacher certificates. There's a lot of white teachers with and I'm just being honest, with low education.
Yeah.
So to get back on topic is right. To get back on topic is, well, where do it start from? Well, you're not paying these teachers enough. You're not getting the best teachers to be able to provide a well, humble education for this young child. And once we change that, it will draw some of the best teachers to want to teach, to do a better job in listening, and how to be able to go back and forth with a kid and working with them on their learning style.
Yeah, because of course, if the teacher's happy, then the student would be happy, and they feel like they're understanding the topic. Would you also say that the tackling of homelessness, because what I found is most in the UK, most of the youth who's not been in education of the plus 18 end up either sofa surfing, or they end up being, you could say, forgotten about within the education system. Would you say same situation in America, in the fact that they may result to sofa surfing, or they may become homeless? And do you have a big issue of homelessness in America?
So I'm going to tackle one point at a time. It's all connected, if you ask me. It's all connected of why the homeless are homeless. And in a way, I'm not giving no excuses, but we gotta be factual. Well, the education pushed people out of the school system. And in order to get a job, you got to have a certain type of education, which is true. But you think about this person that's struggling at home, already struggling to put in, money on the table and food in their mouths. Well, then they become homeless. Over time, they become homeless because they don't have a certain type of education. They don't have a certain type of confidence. Now, in the world, you can make money in a lot of ways, but just imagine if you educate them. And your second question, it is a huge problem. It is a huge problem. It's an issue that's not being covered. So we're having the same problems in the US as the same as in the UK.
Wow. And so I'm guessing, but I don't want to assume, has Biden dealt with education right now? What I heard is that after the pandemic, he was going to deal with education. Has that been the case over there? Has he dealt with it yet, or is he?
We're slowly, but we're working our way up. We're working our way up into making sure that this thing get out there, this noticeability get out there, and also you are seeing an increase in some areas. So it's not all bad, but it can be a lot better for the future, for the next generation.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you. And would you say that on the topic of what's accessibility like So in America, is accessibility accessible for people of disability, in your view?
I think, again, it can be better. I think, especially with the way I found out at 28, and I'm also understanding that it's a school out there for dyslexics and learning, but the price is so high. It's like 60,000 in
Mm-hmm.
ordinary to go to school for dyslexic. So I think it's really for the people with money to win, to help their generation to win. A certain type of people, a certain type of look that help them win, and not thinking about people who don't have that type of money.
Okay, so basically, in regard to access to education, then, and in regard to, you could say there's a big gap within the social mobility. So the privileged are getting richer, the poor are really not being able to be educated, and that's probably even with that. I don't want to assume, but would it be also the case that in resources as well for, like, you could say, because what we have here is we have, like, what would you have is an audio. You would have like a colored card where, I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's a colored card that you would have on a reading book, because, you know, like black and white writing may look confusing for a neurodiverse person. It looks all jumbled up. So it's like they would either need specific colored paper, or they would need like a colored card that they can able to read the actual, like, you know, article or piece in the book, if that makes sense. Do they have that over there?
Well, yes, we do, but it's only going to lead back to the education of the neurologic system or the information of being dyslexic. If you don't know, you can't
Yeah.
research it. And as kids, you look up to somebody to help us tell us these things. And if the teachers don't know, if the world, or let's just use a smaller platform, if a school system, a public school system, a public meaning that an inner city school, if they don't know, then all it does get overlooked about dyslexic and the neurologic
Yeah.
system. It's super hard to do your own research and say, oh, I need a colorful, I need this certain type of thing, I need this certain type of thing to understand something. And I think if we don't understand what it is, it get overlooked. And if the school's not helping us, then
Yes.
again, it pushes you right out to the door of being confident of pursuing your dreams.
Very much so. So to wrap up and to ask you the last question, what would you envision that needs to be improved, and would you feel that needs to be in place to be more of a better legacy for the next generation, and for them not to go through the same struggles which you and myself have gone through as successful dyslexic, neurodiverse, you know, role models in the fact for the next generation? What would you feel needs to be improved?
So what needs to be improved is the awareness of dyslexic and the neurologic system. We need to get that out ASAP, because the earlier you can get it out, the younger the kid can start to embrace it. Because I'm 28 and I'm still like amazed about how much I accomplished throughout my entire life without even knowing. So if one person slipped out, and I did it with a chip on my shoulder, and other people are not being able to become successful because they're struggling with understanding what dyslexic, or they know how they learn, well, then we're not doing a good job. So what needs to happen is, I need the company that I work for, and more around the world, need to be aware of these things, and how to be able to embrace it younger, and be able to help the next generation, and so forth, so we can catch up. The whole goal is to catch up, to be able to learn in and out, and that takes time. So we need a great system, and that's what I think Dean and in the organization is doing a phenomenal job at.
That's brilliant. Well, I would like to say thank you for what you're doing. We'll be in touch, and yeah, both of us together. It was a pleasure for the people that have joined. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll give you a moment to put them in the box. And if not, I would like to say, well, thank you very much for being the guest this week. And yeah, everyone, please do check out the #Claudes SEN Law, link in bio for more information. You can also submit your story to make everyone else be aware of the issues, and also in the fact of your own personal stories and of how they can be implemented within the action which we need to take for awareness of neurodiverse and awareness of an inclusive world and the Claudes SEN Law. So, and also you can also, in the UK, if you're in the UK, you can also write to your local MP. And for the people in America, please do feel free to share the word and use the following #Claudes SEN Law. Thank you very much, Deon Butler,
Thank you,
for
Claudia.
being a guest.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Most definitely, I'm going to let my community know about coming to London. Once my schedule is finished, I am going to hit you up because I am excited, all right?
Yeah, no, that's great. And that sounds really great. Thank you to everyone. And it's been a pleasure. And we'll speak soon. Thank you. And everyone, this was the Claudes SEN Law Instagram Live with Deon Butler. Thank you.
Have a good one.
Bye. You too.